Welcome to Bloom Thursdays. It is so wonderful to inject and infuse some empowerment and inspiration into your week. And I am Lola Moore Johnston, and I teach purpose mastery and faithful productivity to people all over the world. I am so inspired and happy to be here. And again, I'm so grateful that you have allowed me to be part of your week. Now, I need you to do me a favor. Since you're here, please tag somebody. Let somebody know that Bloom Thursdays is on and invite them to watch it with you. You know that there's going to be some nugget, something that you're going to get out of the broadcast tonight that is going to be eye-opening and inspiring and help you to launch into your purpose. So go ahead and tag a friend today. Don't be afraid. I won't embarrass you. Go ahead and tag your friend today. Now, it is storming outside here in Woodbridge, Virginia, which means anything could happen in the next couple of seconds. If a light goes out or something, I'm going to continue to go and continue to share with you. But just know that if it is storming here, that we're just going to do what we can. I don't have the power to control the wind and the waves just yet, but we're praying and asking God for that anointing in Jesus' name. So I want to ask you, won't you go in the comments and tell us where you are watching from? I see a couple of familiar names. Hello, Miss Annie Nicole Sellers. Good evening, Mrs. Barbara Barnes. And if you are watching, I want to hear where you're watching from. So go ahead in the comments and just tell me where you're watching from. Say hello, represent your area. We want to hear where you're watching from. Oh my goodness. I tell you again, it is such a thrill and an honor to have you here every Thursday evening. And tonight I'm talking about something that I'm really passionate about. So I can't wait to share it with you. We're going to talk about the 5 questions of the heart. But I want to let you know before we go into that, well, let me greet you properly first. Let's look in these comments. I see Miss Diana Ousley from Orlando, Florida. Hello, Orlando. Good to have you here tonight. Y'all hear this thunder and this lightning? My goodness, it's serious out there. We had a thunderstorm last night too. Tell me where you're watching from. I want to see where you're watching from. I know I have Birmingham, Alabama. Good evening, Birmingham. I hope you are doing well, Mrs. Sellers. Good evening, good evening. You continue to put in the comments where you're watching from. I see somebody watching from New Jersey. Hey, New Jersey. I see Carrie, North Carolina. Hello, North Carolina. We're so thrilled to have you. While you are sharing, I want to tell you again that we're going to be reading another book. We had such a good time reading Nona Jones's book, Success from the Inside Out, last month. I hope you enjoyed that earlier in this month. And we're going to, Abaco, Bahamas. Good evening. I want to make sure I greet you. We're going to be reading another book called Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels. And we'll be reading that, coming together and talking about it a little bit. And I'm actually going to select a few of you to come on and talk about it with me. Patricia Harris, hello from Old Bridge, New Jersey. Pie from Atlanta, Georgia, hello. And then we have someone from Charleston, South Carolina, hello. Raymondham, Massachusetts, hello. Yeah, this thunder and this rain is not playing. So, like I said, if I go out or something, y'all know I didn't get raptured. Not yet, but we're going to do what we need to do. Okay, so I was talking about Believe Bigger. We're going to be watching reading Believe Bigger at the end of the month, and I'm actually going to select a few of you to talk about it with me. So if you are interested in joining a panel to talk about Believe Bigger, I want you to go in the comments and say, I am interested. And then we'll select a few of you to talk about it with us. You maybe be a panel to talk about the book. It's going to be amazing. I will actually play that now so that you can know what it's about. It's going to take a little bit, but the book is amazing. Believe Bigger, Marshawn Evans Daniels. Here it is.
Have you ever asked yourself, why am I here? What am I really here for? It's got to be more than just success and cars and houses and even just helping people, being a mom, being married. What am I really here for? I know I asked myself that question not that long ago when I was engaged to be married and found out that my fiance was cheating on me. And I discovered this 6 days before my wedding. I don't even know now how I'm going to pay my bills because I trusted him to take care of everything. Matters of the heart is something that will certainly bring you to your knees and ask you, what am I really here for? So if you're in that place, you're not alone. Women all around the world are going through an awakening and asking the exact same question: why am I here? When we look at our lives, we see a mess. But when God looks at our lives, he sees a map. And in particular, he sees 5 stages that he wants us to go through, these 5 stages of divine reinvention. I call it the purpose map. And stage 1 is called discovery. Discovery is all about the rules, who you're supposed to be and what you need to do to become successful or be accepted. Stage 2 is the talent stage. The talent stage is all about mountain climbing and becoming a master mask wearer. This is where we identify with one of 5 mountains, whether it's motherhood or marriage or being successful. And sadly, most people, most women, and most believers will never leave and make it out of stage 2. And this is where split rock moments come in to disrupt us, to wake us up, to get us to move forward. And we enter into stage 3, which is called the gap. The gap is that in-between place. You're not where you were. You're kind of leaving your Egypt, but you're also not in your promised land. You're in transition. You're in the between. Stage 4 is gifts. This is where we find out what God really made us for, what he really put us here for. But most of us don't know our gifts. And so my job, my duty, and also my honor is to help you figure out, what are your gifts? The stage 5 of the purpose map, which is influence and legacy. And this is where God wants us. He wants you to lead and to learn how to lead in unique ways. It's about being available. It's about being exactly where God needs you, right where he needs you right now. There is a mission and it has your name on it. The question is, where are you on this purpose journey? Which stage are you in? And what is the mission that is calling to you, that awaits you, that needs only you to be able to answer? But you have to believe bigger in order to accept it.
I have read through and listened through that book, and it has been a tremendous blessing, and I can't wait to share the book with you. So again, if you're interested in being on the panel to discuss the book with me at the end of this month, I want to ask you to put "I'm interested" in the comments. I'm also very, very what it's the thunder that's messing with me, right? I'm very excited that beginning on Thursday, I believe it's going to be August the 13th. Yes, it is. The second week in August, we're going to begin our discussion of entanglements. Oh my goodness. Everybody's been talking about them, and you know exactly where we got it from. But I'm going to invite my friend, one of my mentors, Dr. Ann Melville Chester, and several couples to come on to Bloom Thursdays. And we're going to talk about entanglements and the real deal about marriage. So if you're interested in talking about relationships and things like that, make sure that you mark your calendar for the 13th of August. We're going to get started with that conversation. I'm going to say more about that in a little bit, but I am thrilled, excited that we're going to do that. We might even start it on the 6th, but I will let you know. We will have an announcement out about that, and to make sure that we're telling the truth and the real deal about marriage. I hope that these conversations are meaningful to you. And again, if you want to share, please share with a friend. We would love it. Okay, so for our conversation for tonight, I want to talk to you about the 5 questions the heart asks. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to share my screen. So you should see, and I made sure that I did this right so that I could watch it myself. You should see my screen coming up. And what happens is, and let me make sure I'm on the right slide. Yes, Lord. Myles Munroe, Dr. Myles Munroe, who is now deceased, was, oh man, a man before his time. He spoke about the 5 questions that the heart asks. And so tonight I want to ask you, what is your question? Okay, so I want you to keep that question in mind as you think about it. I'm going to ask you to comment in the comments. Okay, all right, so here it is. So Myles Munroe says this thing about 5 questions, but in order to start, we have to begin and acknowledge that when we talk about this term purpose, the term that I've been using so much, trying to figure out what our life's purpose is, walking in purpose, and all of that, we have to understand that purpose is also often misconstrued, right? It encompasses a lot of questions around our identity and the reason for existence. And a lot of times people think that they're trying to find out their purpose when they're actually trying to find something else. Or they think that they have been unsuccessful in identifying their purpose and that they're consistently trying to answer that question, when in fact they may have been asking and answering several questions along the way. I had this same challenge when I believed that I was just trying to figure out my purpose, but God was actually answering all 5 of those questions. So now I don't feel so badly about how long my journey took, because we were getting more accomplished than just answering one question. So let's talk about it. Purpose is a noun. It is defined as, if we use this as a noun, it can also be used as a verb, but in this sense we're using it as a noun. And it is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Okay, when we use this purpose, this word purpose, it's the reason why something exists. And oftentimes we're thinking that we're asking and answering the question, why do I exist? But sometimes it can get entangled with some other quests. And so we're going to talk about those things. Dr. Myles Munroe, who is actually from the Bahamas, he passed away some years ago in a tragic accident, but he left so much wisdom with us. And one of the concepts that he left with us are the 5 questions of the human heart, okay? And those 5 questions are these. The first one is, who am I? What is my identity? Who am I? What is my character? What is my personality? Who am I? Secondly, where am I from? The source. Where's my source? When I remember going to college and someone approached me and asked, who you and who your people? And I said, what? Being from the north, nobody had ever asked me that question, but he really was asking me to unpack in that moment who I'm related to, that he would know, so that he would understand something about me. It took me years to understand that question, but now, having been around Southerners for some time, I get it. He wanted to know more about me than I could really answer myself, so he wanted to know who my people were. The third question is, why am I here? Okay? What's my purpose? What am I made for? That is the essence of that question. What is it that I'm uniquely gifted to do? What is it that I'm supposed to contribute to the world? What is it that I will leave with the people when I'm here? So why am I here? Okay? Number 4 is, what can I do? Okay? What are my abilities? How vast is my reach? How much can I accomplish? How high can I climb? How many degrees can I earn? How smart am I? How talented am I? What is my potential? And then finally, what is my destiny? Where am I going? Ultimately, what is all of this about? Okay? So when I think about these 5 questions, I use several Bible stories in order to lay this out. The Bible does answer these questions in the lives of those who we meet. One person, namely Joseph, is a perfect example of these 5 questions being answered. Well, we know when Joseph's family is described, his family is not necessarily described in terms of one person. It's described generationally. And so this family begins in the telling of this family story with Abraham, then Isaac, then his father Jacob. And so when they talk about this family, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, now in present terms, people will talk about Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel. okay? Because of the desire to honor the fact that generations don't just happen because men are a part of them. There are actually women that are part of this lineage as well. But Isaac was never unsure. He never knew what his source was, what his family was. And his father was very intentional about talking to him about his identity, about the fact that he was loved, he was beloved, that he was one who was going to rule. This coat of many colors that he was given was actually a coat that a royal person would wear. It's a person who doesn't work. That person is a ruler. And so Jacob instilled in him very much so the fact that he was going to be over this family, or within his family, a ruler. So Isaac is clear about his identity. He knows who he is. He is the son of his father. He is one who is beloved. He is one who is prized. He is one who is expected to do great things. He is a part of this clan. His father's family, who is the descendant of Terah, Abraham, and Isaac, and now Jacob. He's clear about his brothers and where he stands in there, his mother being Rachel. But one day he has a dream. And in that dream, he sees a picture of his destiny. He is destined to be an important person who will be honored and revered by his family. Even though at that time he is one of the youngest, only one younger than him, his brother Benjamin, he knows that he is destined to be honored by his family. That's all he knows. And at that point, he does not know his purpose or his potential. Okay? So what happens is he gets thrown into a pit, and all he knows is his identity, his source, and his destiny. But when he gets to Potiphar's house and is installed there as a slave, he begins to work. And the Bible says that as he works, Potiphar recognizes that the Lord is with him. Okay? And because the Lord is with him, he recognizes, Potiphar that is, that everything that he puts in this boy's hand is going to be blessed. That answers his potential. He knows that everything he touches will be blessed because the Lord is with him. And so he has to leave home, watch this, to leave the father who loved him in order to determine and in order to discover his potential. And so some of us are upset because we get launched out of the places where we originally were, believing that somehow they should have treated us better and all that kind of stuff. But understand that being locked in the place where you grew up sometimes is not the right place for you to grow and to experience your full potential. Some of us will never reach our full potential in our old place. You got to go to a new place where they don't know you, a new place where you're not confined to the way that people looked at you, a new place where they don't know your whole history and what your mama and your grandmama and all of them were, so that they can, put you in a box. Sometimes we have to leave home in order to understand our potential. And that's the same thing with Joseph. Joseph had never worked a day in his life. Joseph did not know what he could accomplish. All he was at that time was a tattletale. All he did was go and tell his father what his brothers were doing. He was one who looked on from a distance at what other people were doing. This is the first time that Joseph has an opportunity to see the fruit of his own hands. Oh my goodness, in here. I'm not supposed to be preaching on Thursday night, but can I preach a little bit? Here, Joseph has to go into slavery in order for his potential to be unlocked. You're going to stop despising the places where you find yourself. It might be uncomfortable. It might not feel ideal, but that is likely the place where God is going to unlock your potential. Can I talk to here? Can I preach in here on the Thursday night? God sometimes puts us in uncomfortable situations because that is the place where our potential is unlocked. And so it is in slavery where Joseph recognizes, number one, that when he does things that God's hand is on him. And number two, let's fast forward to him in the prison, right? He's doing what he does again. He realizes that everything that he does in the prison, the Lord blesses, and so now he's over the prison that he's supposed to be serving time in. But watch this. It is in the prison that he has another opportunity to branch out. And what happens is a baker and a cupbearer are having a discussion, and he's listening on. And because he has heard over and over again who God is, the story of his family, who his grandfather, his father, and who his lineage is, he understands that there is a God in heaven. And watch this. He steps out and does something that he has no idea about. He steps out and does something new. He is now confident in his potential because he understands that everything he does, that God gives him, the answer to, and the Lord allows him, as he has made a declaration in faith, again, to do something he's never done before. He hears a dream and he correctly interprets it. Because now he knows his potential in God. God will help you to do some strange things when you trust in him. Is people in the comments with me? So here it is. All right, here we go. I got a couple of amens in there. All right, here we go. So watch this. He has understood his potential. He knows his identity and his source. He's clear about his destiny, but he still does not know his purpose. And one day, something happens. Pharaoh has a dream, and someone who was supposed to help him be released 2 years earlier remembers that Joseph has potential in telling and orchestrating the understanding of dreams. And finally, he gets a glimpse into his purpose. So watch this. His purpose now is revealed. Coming out of his prison season, out of his slavery season, God reveals his purpose. It is a purpose that is not in Canaan. It's a purpose that's not in Potiphar's house. And it's a purpose not in prison. It's a purpose not in the pit. But what if he had been stuck identifying himself in the places where he had been? If he was stuck pining after his father's house and looking back at Canaan. If he had been stuck saying, I was thrown in the pit one time. I just can't believe I was in the pit. I just feel like now I should always be in the pit because I've been in the pit. Or I was a slave, and so I'm just going to be a slave. I don't want more for myself. No. He was not ever tied to any of those places. And so he's able to transition into his purpose. He transitions into his purpose. And it's not until he's 8 years later from the day that he has this encounter with Pharaoh that he finally articulates his purpose. And he says to his brothers who have come, not knowing he would be there, this purpose statement. This is Joseph's purpose statement. Joseph says, don't worry about what you did for me. It's okay. God sent me here so that I could save many lives. His purpose was to save the world. And so you see how the order didn't happen sequentially. It's not something that happened on and on, but God gave him the pieces that he needed to sustain him on the journey that he was going to travel. And this is what God does for us. These are the questions that we need to answer, but God will answer the questions for us in our lives in ways that help us along the journey. He gave Joseph that dream that he was going to be a man who was going to be revered, which lets Joseph know that the pit is not the end of the story. He gives him a strong sense of purpose. He has a strong sense of identity, a strong sense of community that keeps him so that he is not lured by Potiphar's wife. He is not looking at her as a step up. He is not looking at her as somebody who could do something for him. He already knows who he is. He knows where he's from. And that pride keeps him in a moment where he could be vulnerable. I'm telling you, Joseph does not go to the prison and go and start playing cards at the prison. Joseph does not go out there and start trying to figure out how to be like a Shawshank Redemption and get a little chisel and chisel his way out. Joseph goes to prison and starts going to work. And when he goes to prison and works, the prison guard sees that the Lord is with him, and now he is over the prison. God gives Joseph the pieces that he needs in order to keep him. And I want you to look at the pieces that you already know of these 5 questions you're looking at right now and recognize that the pieces you have are the pieces that have been given to you to keep you on your journey. You may be a person who has a strong sense of identity. You know who you are. You know what you're about. You know how to get from here and there. So you might not know where your destiny is. You might not know where you're going to land, but you know who you're going to be along the way. You have a strong sense of family, perhaps. You know your generations, your cousins and your nieces and nephews and your uncles and your grandmama, and all of them are close. And you know all of them. You're able to connect with one another. That family will keep you on the journey where you're going. You might just know, you might have had a dream or a vision when you were young and God told you what your reason was for living. You may have had a calling story and God knew, God told you where you were. And for many of us, that calling story kept us from making dumb decisions along the way. We knew that we couldn't get caught up and get arrested and get all this kind of stuff, or he revealed to somebody who needed to know. We couldn't get caught up in all of that because we were going somewhere. God showed us our purpose. Maybe he showed you your potential. Somehow he showed you and revealed to you that you could sing, that you could draw, that you were wonderful playing music, that you were a great speaker, that you were great academically, and that lets you move forward. Or somehow God gave you a dream of what was going to happen 10 years ago. He gave you a vision. God will give us the pieces that we need in order to move forward. If this is making sense, go ahead and put something in the comments so I know that it's making sense to you. So let's talk about how you discover if these are your questions. How do you go about answering those questions? Well, of course, I want to start with, if you want to answer those questions, if you pray and ask God, God will start talking to you about those answers. These are some of the mechanisms, though, that are existent now to help you to dig a little deeper into that. So if you wanted to know who you are, your identity, then there's some people who will take a Myers-Briggs inventory or a temperament inventory. You know that you're extrovert or introvert. You know your temperament is melancholy or sanguine or choleric, or you understand what it is that you are, your makeup, so that you understand a little bit more about what to expect from yourself. So people who are trying to answer identity questions likely will take these types of inventories. If you want to know where you're from, a lot of people are doing inventories like Ancestry.com, African Ancestry. Some people do a genealogy. They'll talk to their parents, their grandparents, to ask a little more questions about what it is their generations were like, what your dad was like if you never met him, your mom, if you never met her. Seeking to know where you're from gives us a sense of being established. It helps us to have a sense of belonging, which is very necessary. You have to have a home base internally in order to feel safe venturing out. And so these are some ways that you might look about. My goodness, there's some ways that you might go about seeking where you're from. Your purpose. Why are you here? There are a couple of resources that I have used in order to figure that out. I did not put the shape inventory on there, but that's one that you can use. You can also use a spiritual gifts inventory or an archetype test. The archetypes, Carl Jung some years ago put together archetypes, which was a kind of personality inventory that is not so driven on behavior alone, but it's more fluid to talk about the ways in which we might behave in life. It uses some what should I say, ancient ideologies to help you to understand the type of personality that you might have, the things that are important to you, some of the ways in which you function in society. So it might be fun, or very informative for you to take an archetype test if you have not. I personally am a magician, a sage, and a lover. It lets me know that number one, I am one who is very concerned about transformation. I want to make experiences that help people and things change. The sage is an instructor, a teacher, and so I'm very bent on knowledge, understanding why things are the way they are, and helping other people to understand. And then lover, I have a love for beauty, and so I'm very relational, and I have a desire to have beautiful things around me. And so understanding my archetype kind of helped me to understand the way that I function in the world, and that might be something that you might want to do. Here, your potential. This talks about the scope that you can actually operate in, how much you can accomplish. And so you might want to do a shape inventory. I mentioned that before. And also a strengths finder test. Man, the strengths finder was very good for me, and I realized that both with my Myers-Briggs and with my strengths finder, that it depended on the season that I was in and how I was operating, like what function I was in at the time. It really determined how my strengths came out. So you might want to do that maybe every couple of years or so if you're in a different season, if maybe you've become a new mom, or if you're at a new function in work, or my personality actually changed a bit before the quarantine and after, because there were different things. I had to function in a different way, and so I thought that was very interesting. I also took the oh man, there's another inventory, and I'm probably going to think about it before I go. The disc inventory is a good one also that you can take, that will help you to understand a little bit more as well. And then finally, where am I going? Your destiny. And I honestly believe that there's only one way to understand your destiny, and that's consulting God. Isaiah 46:10 says that God lets us know where it is that we're going, and he establishes and tells us beforehand what he's going to be doing when we get there. And so if you want to know your destiny, some people will consult a psychic, some people will try to ask a medium and all those things. But let me tell you, those mediums, they can tell you certain things about your life that have happened in the past. They can try to forecast your future, but let me tell you, the only true way to understand where you're going and what life will be like when you get there is to ask God. He is the one who keeps our destiny. I really hope that this was meaningful for you, these 5 questions. So I want to ask you again, what question are you on? You can put in the comments a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5. Which question are you on? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What is it that you're on? What question are you answering in your life? I would love to hear from you. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What is it that you're answering tonight? What's your question tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I find that right now I'm actually answering 4 and 5. I kind of know what 4 is, but then depending on what different skill set I am working in, I have still been asking and trying to figure out how much more I can accomplish. What else is it that I can do? So 4 is a big one for me. But I'd love to know. Somebody says 5. Somebody said 3. Very good. Anybody else? What question are you answering right now? What is it that you are working on? What is your question right now? Somebody else said 5. Understood. And so in our talking to one another, in our connection with God, it's going to be interesting to understand what it is that is being answered for us. And when we figure out what the answer is, then we know how to operate in this season. When we understand what question that we are asking, then we're not all over the place, right? We understand that there is a specific answer that we're looking for, and we know how to operate there. So before I go, If you are trying to figure out your purpose, or you want to know your potential, you want to get prepared for destiny, I wanted to share an opportunity with you. I created a course called the Purpose Incubator. It's a 6-week, 6-lesson solidifying purpose course. It's going to help you if you kind of know what your purpose is, or you're new to understanding what your purpose is, but you want to know how to formalize that thing and walk in it confidently. So it is here 6 weeks, 6 lessons, and weekly Sunday boot camps to get you walking in your purpose. So the 6 classes are, number 1, a clarity class. This is going to be developing your elevator pitch. Is how you actually share with other people in 10 seconds or less what it is that you do. Number 2, determining your entity. We're going to ask and answer the question, is what you do a business, a ministry, or both, and how you should behave as a result. Number 3, we want to talk about strategy. How do we deconstruct your 10-year plan? We believe that you should be planning in 10-year increments. It's no longer time for us to just be planning out the next 3 months, the next 30 days. No, you need to know what's coming in the next 10 years. And so by God's grace, we want to help you to prepare for that. And then number 4, we're going to look at branding. How do you represent your purpose to the world? Not necessarily you sharing with the world just yet what it is, but how do you operate based upon the fact that this is your purpose? How do you carry yourself, and how do you present your ministry, your business? Number 5, we'll talk about marketing. How do you introduce your purpose to the world? And then 6, we'll talk about monetizing. How do you make or raise money involving your purpose? There's going to be a free Facebook group that's a part of it, a private Facebook group, a weekly group meeting with myself, and then pop-in encounters with branding and purpose-driven experts. And finally, if you are interested, the class begins on August the 2nd, 2020. And if it sounds like something that's interested to you, I want you to go to bloomwithlola.com now for more details and to get registered. I think it will be a blessing for you. Well, I hope that tonight has been meaningful to you, because I really want to every week ensure that I am infusing you with purpose, that I am sharing with you tools and things that are going to be helpful to you. And I want to make sure that I'm helping you to walk in purpose. I believe that's my purpose. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. Remember that on let's start it on August the 6th. We're going to talk this conversation about entanglements. We're going to invite a panel of people to talk about that. And we'll be doing that for 2 weeks, the 6th and the 13th. And then that very next week, the 3rd Thursday in August, we're going to have our conversation about the book, whoa, my goodness, Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels. And if you're interested in being part of that panel, please reach out to me either in this thread or DM me. Well, thank you so much. This has been your Bloom Thursday, where we infuse your week with empowerment and tools to help you to walk in your purpose. And I pray that you have a wonderful evening. If you have not already followed the Bloom Movement either on Facebook or on YouTube, please go and follow. If this was in any way helpful to you tonight, I want to ask that you would share it. And I hope to see you again next week for another Bloom Thursday. Have a good evening, everybody.